Coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, Microsoft announces new Surface devices. Nintendo introduces a brand new end-user license agreement that will most likely have no chance of standing up in a US court. Nvidia tries to keep their customers ignorant of how bad their next GPU launch is going to be. And a new TikTok trend is destroying student Chromebooks. All that and more coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or it's 2 a.m. Go to bed already. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. We got quite a bit to talk about today. I actually did want today originally to be kind of Twitch focused. I've been sitting on a lot of stories that have just been kind of piling up about the mannerisms within Twitch. And then Nintendo just went and said, you know what, we're updating our interim user license agreement. And everyone's attention went to that when they saw the absolute insanity that is in this EULA. You do not want to miss this. But first, we need an update on a story we talked about last week. That being the fact that Twitch, I'm sorry, not Twitch. I wish Twitch would be, but no, Apple got handed a massive L in court. And one of the things they were told was that the court was not going to entertain a stay. A stay meaning that the sentence was going to be held until an appeal was heard. The court specifically said, or the judge specifically said, we are not gonna entertain a stay. So guess what Apple asked for? You could guess. Yeah, they asked for a stay. So I mean, yeah. So already they're racking up fines because they're not completely compliant with the rulings of the court. And from everyone's understanding, this all goes into effect immediately. And of course, Apple is still looking at potentially being dragged to another court for legal violations within the state of California for their behavior in court. But I mean, come on, they gotta try and go for a stay, right? Right? That's not gonna end badly for them at all. That's not gonna go ahead and make anything look weird at all. So good luck with that, Apple. I strongly suspect the answer to your stay is going to be no. No, they're not going to hold it. The stay is not going to be enforced. You can appeal, but you're going to have to go ahead and just deal with the fact that, yep, you're going to have to obey the court and allow other apps to have other payment options. The end. Good luck, Apple. Meanwhile, though, we've been a lot of doom and gloom lately. I'm going to admit that. But we're going to be a bit more doom and gloom later. But for now, I just want to actually bring your attention to something interesting. There have been some leaked images roaming about a potential Xbox branded handheld device. And here's the amazing thing about this Xbox branded handheld device. It's very clearly made by Asus. So if you were wondering, all right, who's going to go ahead and make the mythical Steam Deck competitor, but powered by the Xbox? It looks like the answer is going to be Asus. These pictures were also shown alongside the ROG Ally 2. I also just want to point out, who handled these? Like, seriously, why do these devices look like they were handed off to a kindergarten that just got out of eating fried chicken? These things look filthy. It's fingerprints, dirt, and grime everywhere on these things. And these are supposed to be testing leaked images. What were they testing? I have questions, and I don't know if I want answers. But in any case, yeah, apparently that is the latest rumors about the Xbox handheld. Here's my question though. Who is really after an Xbox handheld? Like, Microsoft is doing an amazing job at becoming the nothing gaming company. All right, that's pretty much what Xbox is right now. Nintendo is doing an excellent job of ticking gamers off and just enjoying the market of users that don't know better. We're going to get to them later on. Don't worry, don't worry. Sony pretty much just wants to be, you know, the teen and up gaming company and are doing a fantastic job of that. The PC space and Valve and Steam and all that, the entire PC gaming market really is just absolutely flexing the freedom to let you do what you want to do, especially on the Steam Deck. That whole thing is just, my God, they are nailing everything right with the Steam Deck. Even though there's been no recent update, really hardware-wise, in quite some time. Despite that, still a fantastic device. What does Microsoft have going for them? They have no exclusives, which honestly kind of grateful for. But also, their hardware is now the most expensive out there. And they said they're just going to go ahead and say, yeah, all of our first-party titles are $20 more expensive to match Nintendo, who is, you know, at least has unique exclusives. But we're also still going to microtransact our stuff to heck and back. Like, I don't get it. I really, really don't. Like, how does Microsoft right now, I don't know how you look at them as anything but last freaking place. It's so weird. They're just doing everything they can to shoot themselves in the foot. So, I mean, unless this handheld is like crazy, like how cheap would the Xbox handheld have to be to make people consider it? I was going to say $250 to be under the Switch, but soon the Switch is going to be $450. So I guess that argument's out the window. I'd say probably $300. Someone in chat says $350. $350 might also be a good answer. I think if you're going to go ahead and lock yourself into an ecosystem that's questionable, I feel you got to be under the Steam Deck. Because the Steam Deck was a questionable environment, and now it feels way more stable. And there's just kind of a community building around the Steam Deck in just how to get around this, that, and the other thing. So if you're going to go ahead and make a closed device, you definitely got to be under the Steam Deck. Because at least then you look at the Steam Deck and go, yeah, but I'm paying for the ability to go ahead and modify it. And for the freedom of it, you know? Like, what does Steam Deck start at? 400, right? No, actually looking this up here. Steam Deck right now, straight from Steam, yeah, starts at $399 for... Okay, honestly, I did not realize this. Yeah, $399. I could have swore this was 128 gigabytes for the base version. 256 gigs is still kind of bad, but that's much easier to swallow. But yeah, $399 for the base version of the Steam Deck. I still would personally recommend the 550 option. I feel like this is the sweet spot right here. That is just my personal opinion right there. So yeah, the more I think about it, yeah, I think person in chat's correct. 350 is the correct answer for what this thing has to be at to make you consider getting a Xbox branded handheld over the Steam Deck. We'd also have to see what the software is like for an Xbox branded handheld. Because imagine if it's an Xbox branded handheld and it still runs Windows. Oof. That would be great for compatibility. Bad for everything else, because you need a lot of horsepower to run Windows and a game. To run them well, I should say. Speaking of a lot of horsepower, Microsoft has announced 2 new Surface devices. And by the way, did you forget that they call them Copilot Plus devices now? Yep, it's newer PCs with NPUs. They're Copilot Plus devices, because I do not condone violence. All right, I just want to start that off. But I want to find whoever's in charge of naming things at Microsoft and shake them. Someone in chat says Notepad now with Copilot. Is Notepad... Didn't they kill Notepad? Which is a shame, because I use Notepad a lot, actually. They killed WordPad. Why'd they kill WordPad? That was the better of the two. Yeah, whatever. In any case, if someone in chat says Notepad gets AI, if Notepad gets AI, it'll become a requirement for pretty much all used PC sellers to have Notepad++ pre-installed. Like, I feel like that would just become a requirement. Because, like, come on. But anyway, I digress. There's a new 13-inch Surface laptop and a 12-inch Surface Laptop Pro. I'm sorry, not Surface Laptop, but Surface Pro. The Surface Pro, if you don't know, is the tablet with the keyboard cover that goes on there. For whatever reason, though, the new Surface Pro, the keyboard now lays flat. There is no longer an option to have the keyboard raised a bit with magnets for ergonomics. So now the new Surface Pro is actually worse than the $200 used ThinkPad tablet I got from a pallet, which I unfortunately don't have with me. It's at work. Both of them are powered by the Snapdragon X processors, so they are both ARM-powered computers, not too surprising. The laptop starts at $900. The tablet starts at $800. Now, I want to go ahead and actually see if we can get more specific specs, because I want to see what the specs are for a $800 tablet. Starts off with a Snapdragon X Plus. That's an 8-core processor, 1296 by 1464 resolution at 90 hertz, 16 gigabytes of memory. Starts at 256 gigabytes of storage, upgradable to 512. 16 hours of battery life. It has a Hexagon NPU, whatever that, from Qualcomm, whatever that means. Wi-Fi 7, 2 USB-Cs, no power supply included. All right. I was kind of okay, but not really, with the fact that new phones don't get a power supply with them, because most people went ahead and just got extra accessories to charge their phone more conveniently anyway, whether it be a wireless charger or just like an upgraded fast charger or something like that. Like, most people have something at home already. Like, they already had like a boatload of spare USB power supplies or whatever that they could have used to charge the phone. How many of you have a 30-watt USB-C charger at home? I'll wait, because I'm willing to bet not many of you are sure if you do. I'm willing to bet a good chunk of you don't, period. Like, yeah, $800 is a good price point, but holy smokes, if I'm now going ahead and paying like $40, $50 for a 30-watt USB-C power supply, I'm going to start being really annoyed. Because all of a sudden now, everything starts creeping. Because, like, let's look at this for a minute, all right? I also just realized the upgrade version over here, this 10-core option, that's not the tablet. That's not a better version of the tablet. That's the laptop. Oh no, no, that is a tablet. It's a bigger tablet. But this one over here is the new one with no charger. Yeah, it looks like you're actually restricted on what your specs are based on the color you pick. If you want the purple one, you have to. Oh my God. This is awful. They charge $70 for a USB-C charger on their website. So by the time I'm done with this, I almost have a $950 unit, to which then I could have just gotten the base version of the 13-inch model. Why is it every time I look at Surfaces, I end up shaking my head in disappointment? Every time. Small mom and pop shop cannot afford to sell for $800 and include a charger. I can't even begin to like start with that. But yeah, these are all lower end versions of what already existed. Fortunately, the laptop does include a power supply, not the tablet though. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about that. I'm actually more annoyed by that than anything. Imagine if the Switch didn't come with a power supply. People would be ticked. Someone in chat said they have 3 30-watt compatible chargers at home. Good for them. I feel like they might be in the minority. Really? 30-watt compatible USB-C chargers that support USB-C power delivery? But yeah, that is the new Microsoft units. And of course, the whole thing goes on. I'm focused on the hardware. They go on the software and being like, oh, it supports AI. What does AI do? It helps make you more productive. How? You can ask it things and it might be right. Ooh. One of these days, there's gonna finally be a amazing use case for the average consumer to go ahead and embrace AI. Someone in chat says, from work experience, it summarizes documents. How well, though? Because I've seen the YouTube summarized chat summaries powered by AI. And, man, those aren't good. There's just no other way around it. They are not good. Not well enough for clients to read. Yeah. Clear. I'm going to use AI. All right, I'm going to use AI to summarize this next story to be as short as possible. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Okay. Skype is dead. Okay, moving on. Was that summarized enough? All right, no, we'll go into a bit more detail on it. All right, Skype has officially been killed. It's been on life support for a very long time. The branding for Skype has now officially been killed, and all of its features are now rolled into Microsoft Teams. They've been rolled into Microsoft Teams for a while, but now but now it's just all official. Also, I have to lie, I did not use AI to summarize that. I tricked all of you. I used human thinking power all along to come up with the summary. Skype is dead. By the by, some other bad news for you though, and this one I'm not going to go ahead and summarize it all. Windows 11, whether you want it or not, is now force downloading the latest 24H2 update, even if you do not want it, in very typical Microsoft fashion. And man, just when I think, you know, I keep having this relationship with Microsoft, all right? Microsoft does something stupid. I go up on here and I rant about how stupid it is and how much I hate it and how I'm going to go switch to Linux. And I go and call them down from the podcast and go, all right, maybe I'm a bit too harsh. All right. Maybe I can live with it because I've ripped apart Windows 7. I've ripped apart Windows 10. I've ripped apart, well, Windows Vista deserved it. Again and again and again, I rip apart Windows versions. I even ripped apart Windows 8. Windows 8, you can make Windows 8 tolerable. There's no reason to, obviously, anymore, but you could make Windows 8 tolerable. And, you know, I use Windows 11 on my laptop. It can't use any of the latest features from Windows 11 because, you know, it runs a real processor without a neural processor at all that uses real hertz instead of AI hertz. Take that, Nvidia. Even though there's an Nvidia GPU in my laptop. And, you know, it's not that bad after I customized everything. You know, maybe I could go ahead and just upgrade the streaming PC to something a bit more modern and just finally embrace Windows 11. And then Microsoft goes ahead and does something like this, and I go, you know what? I don't think I hated Microsoft enough. Like, every time I manage to, like, talk myself into it, like someone with freaking Stockholm syndrome, they go ahead and go, oh wait, no, they're actually still terrible. Every single freaking time. And granted, of all the things, this isn't that bad. All right. To be clear, of all the dumb things Microsoft has done, this legitimately, honestly, is not even that bad. But it is just a reminder that Microsoft doesn't respect their users. They don't respect your choices. They don't respect anything about you. You are going to use their product how they feel you should, and you should be happy about it, or else. That is how Microsoft still feels about you using Windows. It's still their thought process. And guess what? I still hate it. It's still awful. So what do? I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I really, truly don't know what you even do about this other than just consider Linux. I'd say go ahead and maybe ponder using Mac OS, but man, Apple respects you even less. You thought Microsoft was a control freak? Whoo! That Apple knows nothing but control. Zona in chat says, as long as I can keep using Steam and good old games, I'm going to keep using Windows 10. Here's the problem, though. We've only got about 5 minutes before support for Windows 10 ends. And after that, the quality and support for Windows 10 and its compatibility with all products out there will only get worse and worse and worse and worse. Someone in chat says Eagle goes to Linux threat number 2237. I keep making this threat, and honestly, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm scared. I am scared of investing a ton of time into trying to get a Linux distro to work perfectly with everything that I do for the podcast, for my work, for streaming, for video editing. I'm afraid of getting all that to work and then find out, oh wait, no, this one critical thing doesn't work, and I just wasted all this time and went and got a second drive so I didn't ruin the Windows install. Because that sort of migration is massive. It really, really is. And it's just a move you never want to make. Especially if you find out something like, oh, your keyboard and mouse don't work. Oh, your webcam's not supported. Oh, your GPU's not supported. Oh, you use 2 Xeons and a scrapyard workstation? Ooh, Linux no likey. Even though that makes no sense because there's tons of Linux distros that are actually built for servers. I mean, that's what I'm afraid of. I have so little free time as it is. And the thought of spending all of it and change on something that may not even be worthwhile, it does scare me. Someone in chat says Mac got this. We went over this. Mac literally does not have this. Mac is not compatible with the stuff I play. Mac is not compatible with my stream setup. It does not have enough IO. It is not a viable option. Period. End of story. Not pleb. They say pleb talk in chat. It's not pleb talk. It's correct. Macs do not have the IO that I need. Their IO sucks. Do you have any idea the number of USB ports that are on the back of the Z840? There's 8 on there by default. I needed to add another 6 because there's that many devices talking to that workstation. Mac does not have the IO to support what I need. So no, Mac don't got this. I would need to go get a Mac cheese grater, and Mac doesn't even want to support the cheese grater. And I can't afford a cheese grater because I don't want to be that stupid. Also, I'll be real honest also, by the way, the Mac Pro or the Mac cheese grater might be the dumbest product right now in the entire Apple lineup. It is the most out of date, and its sole purpose is literally IO expansion. That's it. Otherwise, it is an awful workstation because it's just on par. It's actually now below par of their Mac Studio, which is just basically the Mac Mini Pro. We're going to take a 5-minute break here. When we come back, I want to get into OpenAI as well as the Nintendo EULA. And how Nintendo now actually does hate you. Like, just straight up, they hate you. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. All right, first things first, OpenAI has now officially reversed their course. They were trying to go ahead and make it so that their for-profit side of their business did control every part of OpenAI, but now they are reversing course, and the non-profit side of themselves will remain in control of their business operations, which honestly, it's probably for the best, but honestly, who cares? Like, realistically, I don't trust either the nonprofit or for-profit side of OpenAI with a 10-foot pole. I just don't. Like, their nonprofit side definitely feels like Sam Altman's in control anyway. They're not really doing a whole lot to push up against the for-profit side of it. So it really does just kind of have the feel of no matter what, that in fact, they're just going to do whatever they want and do it without any sort of restrictions at all. It just is what it is. So we'll have to wait and see how things go, but I suspect not a whole lot is going to really change, and they're still going to go ahead and try to fundraise astronomically large amounts of money and try to go ahead and say that AI is going to be best for everything as it goes ahead and violates the rights of every creator out there. It's just going to be what it is. All right. Nintendo is doing a lot right now in plain sight just to see if people are going to turn against them. That just seems to be their goal. First up in the news, and granted, this one I kind of agree with Nintendo on, but at the same time, they could have just let sleeping dogs lie. Nintendo is suing the accessory manufacturer that led to people thinking the Switch 2 was being leaked over at CES because they had 3D printed mock-ups that perfectly mimicked exactly what the Switch 2 was going to look like at CES before the announcement of the Switch 2. If you remember, originally, Nintendo was silent about the Switch 2. They just said that one was coming to go ahead and quell rumors. And then shortly after CES, they quickly put out a teaser video showing the Switch 2 and just left it at that. Said they'd talk more about it in April, which they did, and then gave us all the details then. I speculated then, and I still do believe this, that Nintendo had no intention of showing off anything in early February and wanted to wait until April to say anything about the Switch 2. That everything about that website, that video, and all of that was thrown together very, very quickly just to get people to stop talking about the leak at CES. And I especially believe Nintendo wants to make sure they take control of the narrative of everything involved in the Nintendo Switch 2, especially after the fiasco that was the rumor mongering of the Switch Pro. Remember that one? Where everyone just thought there was going to be a higher end Switch 1 that was going to be coming out. And it was going to have all kinds of crazy features like native 8K and rubbed your feet just the right way and quadruple the processing power and gave you cheek rubbies and all these other outlandish things that there was no way any game console was ever going to perform. And then it turned out, the rumors were about the Switch OLED, which was just the Switch 1 with a slightly bigger battery and an OLED screen. That's it. Now, the manufacturer, who I've actually now blanked completely on, there it is. They're taking Genki, or rather their parent company, Human Things, to court over their trademark infringement. And Genki insists that their 3D mock-ups they showed off at CES was just based on the rumors they heard. It wasn't based on, anything they had internally they couldn't talk about. It was based on rumors, all based on rumors, all of it. All of it was based on rumors. But the thing is that their mock-up got everything correct. And here's the thing. If they were in development of accessories and, the Switch 2 is coming out soon, they had to have had knowledge. They most likely had to have signed an NDA. It is extremely likely that, I hate to side with Nintendo on this, especially with the actual screed I'm going to be having after this story. It definitely sounds like that Genki is actually in the wrong here. And they're trying to save face by, but look at all the rumors. All the rumors is. It wasn't us, guys. And Nintendo's going to win this one. I feel pretty confident they're going to win this one. Meanwhile, about a court case that we're not thrilled with, Pal World. We have some updates from there. Pal World had to go ahead and change a couple of things inside the game, thanks to the Nintendo lawsuit. In Pal World now, you no longer summon your pals out through a ball, Pokeball style, thanks to the lawsuit. And now the latest change, you can no longer glide on your pal as though they were a glider. Now you go ahead and glide on a normal hang glider. Someone in chat said now they're cubes. Now they just appear next to them. I assume later on they'll go polish it up and make it a little bit better. But because they most likely had to go and comply with the law immediately, they just did the fastest change they could. And Pal World has in fact confirmed that yes, the changes that are put in place is in fact because of the Pokemon lawsuit. So now you go ahead and capture pals in, I assume right now you still capture them in balls. That's probably gonna have to change, probably end up being cubes or something. And just more and more features of Pal World have to be changed, all because of this very frivolous and just malice-filled patent lawsuit. I had a bad feeling about this whole thing the instant this no longer became a trademark dispute and this became a patent lawsuit. Because remember, the original thing about the whole Pal World ripped off Pokemon was the thought that Pal World used generative AI, used Pokemon as training data to generate the pals. No evidence of this could ever have been found. And Pokemon, rather, instead of having any sort of introspection, because in the end, Pal World is nothing like Pokemon. It's not. People who went ahead and compared Pokemon to Pal World, not gonna lie, they never either played Pokemon or they never played Pal World. I don't know how you make the argument either way, that Pal World is just like Pokemon or Pokemon is just like Pal World. They aren't. They are nothing alike in the way they play. They are designed similarly, and that's it. So, where do you go from here? Do we just expect more and more features to go ahead and get ripped? And here's the next question. The patent is just about flying on a Pokemon. Does this mean that Pokemon can go ahead and sue Final Fantasy? Because in the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV, you can go ahead and ride on a dragon as a flying mount. Are they going to go ahead and try to sue World of Warcraft next? Because they won this case? Where does this insanity stop? This is the problem with trying to patent a broad game mechanic. Because there's nothing novel about any of this. Instead, all we do is look at this and go, yep, cool. Another game got ruined because the Pokemon company can't go ahead and make a game to save its life. And when they did have something kind of good going on, it just went, oh, let's rush it out and have it be bug-filled anyway. So hopefully that's all the changes that are going to come down, but I suspect there's going to be more. And if Nintendo goes ahead and tries to take this internationally and go after things like Square Enix or Blizzard Entertainment or whoever the heck's in charge of Guild Wars, who knows? And here's the wild thing, all right? And here's what I want you to realize, all right? The patents that were filed that Pokemon is suing over were filed after the creation of Pal World. That is the extra stupid thing about this. And that's the part, honestly, that offends me the most. They filed these patents after the fact and got away with it. Yeah, Pal World predates the patents that are now plaguing them. Meanwhile, Nintendo put out a very interesting EULA that includes very interesting lines of dialogue. Like, you know how I mentioned earlier how on your Steam Deck, if you so chose to, you can go ahead and install whatever operating system you want. You can go ahead and modify the insides as much as you want. Someone in chat said this proves that patent law is a steaming pile of poop. US patent law is still pretty bad. It is nothing compared to how bad Japanese patent law is. Because it's provisions within Japanese patent law that is letting this happen. Because both Pal World and the Pokemon Company are both Japanese companies. This is all being handled within the Japanese court systems. So, I mean, as much as we occasionally go, oh my God, the US justice system, or the US this system, or the US that system, oh my God, they're so bad. Keep in mind, others can be worse. That's all I got, really. But it can always be worse. Anyway, back to the Nintendo EULA. Someone in chat says, mention how you didn't mention one or the other. They just all suck. Every system has its flaws. No system is perfect. No governmental system is perfect. Every single one of them have flaws. Every single one. It's just a matter of which flaw hurts the least. I'll tell you what hurts a lot, though. The Nintendo EULA. The new end user license agreement that Nintendo put out in regards to the Switch 2. That says, you know, if you try to go ahead and modify your Switch 2 in any way, if you try to do anything as far as emulation or anything on your Switch 2, we'll brick it. We'll do it. We'll brick it. We will render your device unusable completely and entirely. And on top of that, they went ahead and warned that by agreeing to the EULA, you have 30 days after agreeing to the EULA to write them a formal letter to opt out of a litigation agreement that says that you waive your right to participate in any class action lawsuit against Nintendo as part of their EULA. So, to use the Switch 2, you cannot take part in any class action lawsuit unless you go ahead and file a letter, which, by the way, you don't even know that you have to do that. But here's the best part about this. Thanks to the fact that we actually do dabble a little bit into tech court cases in here, you know what we already know? This will not stand in American court because Apple already lost this case. Like, people are already analyzing, all right, if they don't want to start participating in a class action lawsuit, what do they think is going to fail? Do they think that the controller ports are going to fail? Do they think that the Joy-Con sticks are going to fail because they're not anything new? What do they think is going to fail first? Here's my statement. We've already seen a pre-existing court case with Apple that says that, no, you cannot force end users to forfeit their right to sue for defective hardware, nor can you go ahead and threaten to remotely render their product useless because they do not use the product in the same way that you want them to. You can cut support, but you cannot remotely brick the device, because Apple tried to do this with jailbroken iPhones, and the courts ruled in the US on a federal level, you cannot do this. Now, keep in mind, I'm just some guy on the internet. I'm not a lawyer in any stretch of the imagination, but I do remember covering this exact story when Apple tried to do this. I don't think, like, I'm not gonna lie, the fact that Nintendo's trying to go ahead and bite a class action lawsuit in the butt right away, demand that users have to go through customer support and not go to a court at all, try to go ahead and waive their right to sue, all that sort of jazz, it tells me they already know something is wrong. It's either that, or they already know that, or they're just trying to go ahead and extra protect them. So just looking at history, something's up. Something is up with this console. And they might be able to get away with this EULA in Japan. I know even less about Japanese law than I do about American law. But the whole thing, it smells familiar. And I already know how this song and dance goes. And it ended with Apple having to pay out a whole lot of money in damages and replace a whole lot of phones they bricked. Someone in chat asked how long ago when I covered the Apple EULA. That case, I want to say, was like 3, 5, maybe even 6 years ago. It was a while back, but it's still well within being referenced. Like most cases, they will go ahead and look back to a case for previous rulings. Looking back 20, 30, 40 years is not uncommon for the US court system to go ahead and see, all right, we had a case like this before. How did another court rule on this? And why did they rule on this? Like, they'll go back quite a few decades. So, yeah, Nintendo's getting awfully anti-consumer with the way they're behaving. And, you know, I gotta look at this as someone who does want to get a Nintendo Switch 2 at some point. I feel like I'm having a bit of a sobering moment, because I was ready to pull the trigger on one. And now, maybe it was a blessing that I failed at getting a pre-order. Maybe it's better to go ahead and sit back and see how this goes out. Not like there's going to be any real extremely interesting games I need to play on the Switch 2 anyway right off the bat. So maybe just go ahead and see exactly how this whole thing goes. Because between this EULA, the fact that most third-party software is going on game carts that contain no game, despite the fact that you absolutely can get a game, that you can fit the games on the game cart, I think it is best to wait to see how things go with the Nintendo Switch 2. Someone in the chat says they were thinking should buy a Switch 2, but with this info, they're never going to buy it. Never say never. Never is a very strong word. And a lot of things can change, because this is all bound on legal documents, and it's very easy to strike down legal documents. Very, very easy. And on top of that, Nintendo always does do hardware revisions. So maybe not getting them right at launch, that might be a wise decision. Saying never going to touch the console generation ever for its entire 6-year lifespan, that might be a bit strong. We'll have to wait and see how things go, because things can always change. Oh, do I take an early break, or do I just, you know what? No, we're just going to plunge into it, because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen if I take a break, because it's happened every single time I've taken a break now, where our live chat at twitch.tv/EagleFalcon, when we record these podcasts live, has been trying to go ahead and get me to agree that Chromebooks are actually worth something. And that's not true. While Nintendo is doing their best trying to be an evil company impression, Nvidia, on the other hand, is trying to went ahead and looked at Nintendo and said, hold my beer. Because it does turn out that there is a massive performance drop on the latest RTX 5060 Ti 8GB version if you are only on PCI Express 4.0. Not only is the 8GB version of the 5060 Ti, which you think doesn't have that much difference from the 5060 Ti 16GB version, it turns out, yes, there is. There is a massive difference. And while the 5060 Ti 16GB version between PCI Express 5.0 and 4.0 is very, very minimal, only a 0.2, or rather a margin of error drop, going from 5.0 to 4.0 on the 5060 Ti can result in almost 15% of your performance lost. Already, what should just be the same card with just less VRAM, already has a significant 10% frame loss just going from 16 to 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which shouldn't be possible unless, you know, the card is bottlenecked via VRAM, because of course it is. But now you find out it's also has a problem in its wiring to the PCI Express slot. Well, there's actually nothing wrong with the wiring. Here's what's going on. Okay. The 16 gigabyte variant is able to use all of its VRAM. In fact, it has plenty of VRAM and then some. So all the compute on the 5060 Ti can just be done on the card. However, because the 8 gigabyte variant bottlenecks so quickly at anything above 1080p, it cannot use, it needs more RAM, is basically what it boils down to. The 8 gigabytes of VRAM on the card is not enough. So the card has to then go ahead and use its bandwidth to communicate with the system RAM. And because Nvidia, because they hate you, went ahead to save cost, wired these at 8x PCI Express bandwidth instead of 16x, you have less PCI Express lanes, So the PCI Express lanes have to manage the traffic more, which slows things down and thus requires an even less performance. Now you might think, well, Eagle, who cares? These are brand new cards. What idiot is going to go ahead and pair a brand new GPU with an old system? It's a budget card. If you are strapped for cash, the 5060 Ti is your only option if you needed to buy new. And if you're really strapped for cash, that 8GB variant is looking much more attractive than the 16GB variant. And that's the one that suffers even more on an older system. And this could have been avoided by Nvidia just allowing the card to have more VRAM, which, by the way, VRAM chips are dirt cheap compared to the rest of the card. We're talking a couple bucks to go ahead and just populate the extra RAM. It's not much in the grand scheme of things per card. It is not much at all. But no, we had to go ahead and put out e-waste from the factory with a RAM amount that was being bottlenecked 4 years ago. You really can't hate Nvidia enough. This entire generation is an absolute train wreck. It's laughable. It's laughable that this is the product they put out. Any other company doing this would be laughed as their stock price went off a cliff. Good thing Nvidia doesn't care about this product at all and cares much more about the AI data center, where every customer is absolutely mentally ill and continues to just buy more and more and more AI GPUs to make AI machine go burr more and more and more, to do things that they still don't know and are just drawing more and more power to do less and less and less, because AI machine go burr. It's an insane world. By the way, we now do have a update for the next GPU. The RTX 5060 non-TI is going to be out May 19th. And when I say you can't hate Nvidia enough, I actually do kind of mean it. Because first off, all the flaws I just mentioned about the 8GB 5060 Ti all apply here. The 5060 is only going to have 8GB of VRAM. You know what's even better? You must be thinking, these reviews are going to be glorious. Oh, the reviews for the 5060, to watch all these tech gurus tear Nvidia to shreds over this lackluster card that just doesn't perform all that well, and just all the fluffery and nonsense. Oh, it's going to be glorious watching all these reviewers tear Nvidia to shreds again. The reviewers won't tear Nvidia to shreds this time. You want to know why? Nvidia went ahead. Well, let's go over the review process. All right. Nvidia sends out review cards. All right. They send out review cards to reviewers weeks before the launch, usually like 2 or 3 weeks before the launch. Reviewers then run a whole lot of tests with a whole lot of different games to then test them. One of the things that the reviewers need is what are called review drivers, software to make the card run before the launch. These are usually early versions of the drivers so that, reviewers can do their thing. Multiple review outlets are saying they're not going to get the review drivers until the day before the launch, meaning reviewers will have less than 24 hours to review the 5060 before it's available to purchase. Someone in chat asked, is Nvidia effing stupid? Heron's Razor says, never assume malice, that which can be equally explained by stupidity. The key word here is equally explained. You can very easily say that, oh, well, someone messed up, they didn't get the media drivers out in time, so oopsie whoopsie, some idiot went ahead and did something stupid. That's all it takes to explain stupidity. However, you're looking at a company that already tries to go ahead and participate in confusing marketing tactics. I mean, we have two 5060 Ti's. By the way, because someone asked, the difference between a TI and a non-TI. A TI card is a step up. Think of it as like a half step between like a 5060 and a 5070, for example. Okay? That's what the TI means. It's like a half step. Okay? However, every single card launch that Nvidia has had in this generation has been a disaster. They can't keep the 5090 in stock. They couldn't keep the 5080 in stock. They couldn't keep the 5070 in stock. The actual retail outlets were scalping the cards. The prices were going out of control, etc., etc., etc. They had terrible drivers that just caused GPUs to perform even worse than the previous generation in a lot of games. GPU drivers that just had the cards just not switch to 3D mode at all. Cards just catch fire if they were the higher end cards that use the 12-pin high power connector. This has been the worst GPU launch Nvidia's had ever. Not to mention the amount of blatant, underline blatant, false marketing they had. Trying to say that a 5070 was going to outperform a 4090. It didn't, by the way. The 5070 barely outperformed the 4070. This entire lineup has been a joke. And Nvidia has been so shameful, they are not even sorry. They have not once during this entire launch ever said, we're sorry things are not up to expectations. Not once. They might have said, sorry, stuff's not in stock. Sorry, we only shipped out 3 GPUs, though they never said that. They just said that it's out of stock. Even though we've seen manifests that show they're only shipping a few, maybe 6 cards each retail outlet on launch day. Oh yeah, the SoCal store got a line around the block to go ahead and see the new cards. There's 5 in the entire store. 5. But the store's under NDA. They can't review that. They can't tell the people who camped out overnight, don't even bother. Nvidia has shown a willingness to be malicious. They have all the motivation to keep the press as quiet as possible for a launch so that people who don't know any better just go, finally, a new Nvidia card I can afford, and just buy it, not knowing how bad it actually is and how much of a non-improvement it is. Heck, just last night on our own stream, a viewer was debating getting another card to upgrade from their 3060. And they're just like, oh man, I want to really go up to a 5060. Don't. The same performance. It's almost the exact same freaking performance. Would they have ever known unless I said something? Probably not. It's not because that person is dumb. They just don't know. And the fact that Nvidia is just delaying these drivers and trying to give reviewers the least amount of time possible so that there can be more and more people who don't know, who does that help? It helps Nvidia. Zone in chat says, but it has more AI generated frames. The AI generated frames offend me. I'm not going to lie. The AI generated frames are atrocious. I know it's what Nvidia is flexing the most. The 3 AI frames per one. Oh my God. I have seen what their AI generated frames are. It's gross. It's disgusting. I don't want to play a game like that, and I don't want anyone else to experience what I saw. Oh God. AI generated frames, for those who don't know, means that the AI components of the card try to guess what the next frame is going to look like before the frame after that is then generated, thus increasing frame rate. And that's how they're selling it. And you know what the best part is? Even if you include the AI frames, even if you include the performance off the AI frames, they still don't live up to their own hype. Like here, the previous slide. DLSS 4 is coming to MechWarrior 5 clans, New World, and all sorts of other things on the new card. All this stuff, talking about multi-frame generation. Oh God, all this nonsense with it. This is all marketing fluff to get you to embrace their DLSS software, which is actually decent, and multi-frame gen, where the AI goes ahead and pukes out garbage for 3 frames for every 1 real frame of the actual game renders. So yeah, even though Heron's Razor says that I should go ahead and trust incompetence over malice, I'm sorry. There is more reason to assume malice in the case of what is going on over Nvidia. And I fully believe this is 100% a case of Nvidia trying to keep negative press quiet. Just like how, just with the 5060 Ti, they only sent out 16 gigabyte cards because they knew the 8 gigabyte card was going to be actually terrible. Yeah, it's not like I need to go back all that far. The last card, Nvidia tried to go ahead and manipulate the media. So yeah, if you ask me what would I recommend for a new GPU, get a used one. Especially if you're going to get an Nvidia one. Makes no sense. It makes no sense to buy a brand new Nvidia GPU. Buying a brand new Nvidia GPU is about the equivalent of punching yourself in the genitals. We're going to take our last break here. When we come back, I want to get to the latest TikTok trend that sounds like I'd be very much in favor of it, seeing as how it destroys Chromebooks. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. One last thing I want to point out about Nvidia's maliciousness. Remember how I said that the new card is coming out on May 19th? Right? The other reason why this is critical, and the fact that reviewers are not getting their drivers until the day before, most tech media is not going to be able to review them in that sub 24 hours anyway, for one main reason. The big Computex. Computex is going to be going on right on the 19th, going until May 23rd. So it's all going to start. The new card drops next Monday. All right. I couldn't remember exactly what it is. It's going to drop next Monday, right? It's going to drop at Computex. That's not all that uncommon. No major reviewer is going to be in their own shop to test the card the day before. They're going to be on a flippin' plane to Taiwan for Computex. Just in case I needed to make this is definitely malice over incompetence argument any more than I already have. I feel I have gone over that extensively. Meanwhile, though, there is a brand new TikTok trend. Oh, this really is just kids being kids, but I hate the fact that challenges like this exist. Challenges just go ahead and be the most delinquent you can be. Where kids are short-circuiting their school-issued Chromebooks all for TikTok clout in this brand new TikTok challenge. This has already caused several Chromebooks to go ahead and combust because of this challenge. Now, I have made it exactly no secret that I am not a fan of Chromebooks, all right? I feel that Chromebooks are a cheap excuse for schools to save money, and I know that schools do need to save money, but it comes at the cost of kids not knowing the bare basics of actual computer management, and that actually having them use a Chromebook is worse than actually using something like an Android tablet or an iPad. Chromebooks in the school, I think, has been the worst thing to happen. That being said, that's still no reason to destroy it, because destroying these Chromebooks, what do they accomplish? It accomplishes nothing other than costing the school probably about $200 to $300 and having to get a replacement Chromebook. It also might get a couple kids electrocuted. Well, probably not. It's all 12 volt inside there, so I don't think it's actually possible for them to get electrocuted from a what you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? From the Chromebook. They can, however, get burned. They can, in fact, get poisoned from the various chemicals leaking out of the smoke, because you're talking about everything that is coating the PCB being burned and put into that smoke, all the lithium coming out of the battery that is now combusting up in that smoke. Someone in the chat says zapped. Again, I originally was about to say someone getting electrocuted. I don't believe there is a concern about kids getting electrocuted by messing with their Chromebooks, just because a laptop runs internally on at most 12 volts, and 12 volts is not enough to get past the resistance of human skin. So there is no electrocution risk, but there's a lot of other risk and actual harm that can happen from igniting a Chromebook. So despite the fact I hate Chromebooks, I really do. And the people I used to work with for actually salvaging and reselling computers, they legitimately now do not touch Chromebooks because there's just too many of them and no one wants to buy them. No one wants these things. They can't even sell them for $10. That is how much I could have, from a wholesale lot, pick up Chromebooks. $10 a piece. No reseller wants them at that price. No school wants used Chromebooks at that price. No business wants them at that price. They can't even sell them on eBay to the general public for that price. They have had to go and send off pallets upon pallets of used Chromebooks for recycling because no one would buy them. I've said it once and I'll say it again. You're much better off just getting a small Windows-based laptop for your kid to learn on. You really are. Because at least then they're learning about a file management system. They're learning more about the intricacies of what a laptop can do and what a desktop can do and what a proper computer can do. Because all a Chromebook is, it's just a tablet but dumber. Someone in chat says get a laptop that has Windows 10. I can't even say that because soon Windows 10 is not going to be supported by the world. Pretty soon in the Windows world, you're not going to have a choice. There's only going to be Windows 10. That's it. Soon the only Windows that's going to be supported is going to be Windows 11. New game you wanted to buy? Nope, Windows 11. That's it. It won't work on Windows 10. That's going to be the near future. Or, Linux. I don't think I'd put a kid on a Linux computer, though. I don't know. Maybe that actually... I actually don't know. I don't know if that'd be a good idea or not. A little bit of Ubuntu, see how that goes for them. Who knows? What they should do, though, if you're going to go ahead and make a school-proof computer, though, you need to get this new storage device. A brand new storage format has been tested by this company called Cerabyte. This is using archival glass-based storage that has a 5,000-year lifespan that is capable of reading and writing and has been tested by having it boiled in salt water and grilled to show that it can handle just about anything. Now, unfortunately, its read and writes are not great, so you really should not be using it as active storage. Someone in chat asks, how did it taste after that? I imagine it tasted like salty burnt glass. Yes, I want my archival storage medium rare. Someone else in chat asks, can it play Doom? At this moment, no. It's just storage. It needs the rest of the computer to play Doom. It's just it's basically a flash drive. A much more well-durable one, but you can't play Doom on a flash drive. You need the rest of the computer. But in any case, that is a potential future of what archival storage may look like. Now, to go into current events a little bit, there's a new pope. And by the way, out here in southeast Wisconsin, a lot of people are talking about it because the new pope, Leo the 14th, well, he's from Chicago. And here we have a love-hate relationship with Chicago. But right now, all of us are just thrilled with the fact that, oh my God, the new pope's from the Midwest. Woo! Go Midwest! But there's something else about Pope Leo the 14th. Apparently, he's a gamer. So to answer the question someone jokingly asked in the chat, will the new pope play Doom? The answer may in fact be yes. The pope actually has played games before. Now, granted, we're talking, it's not exactly like gamer stuff. We're talking about things like Wordle and Words with Friends, you know, just casual, you know, games you'd expect your grandma or grandpa to be playing, but it means we have an in. And also our new Pope Leo the 14th is also have known to have started Twitter spats, which I'm fairly certain is some kind of sin, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I'm not very religious. But actually is capable of knowing what Twitter is, which is more than I can say for pretty much every other pope out there. So we've done it. We've gotten a mildly tech-savvy pope in the Vatican. Even though we had nothing to do with it, it was all chosen by the cardinals of the... what was it? The cardinals? I think it was the cardinals. Someone in chat asked who the heck Pope Leo was patting on Twitter. I believe it was some government officials, which would actually track for someone from Chicago. But finally, we get to the last burb, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be the point where many more people say that AI has gone too far. A judge has accepted an AI-generated video testimony from a dead man. It was accepted as evidence in a court case. The case involved a drunk driving incident that killed a victim, and the victim was electronically brought back to life to give a testimony, which was handwritten by the sister of the victim, and that was given as evidence. The testimony was just written by the sister, so it's not like AI hallucinated up the words of this, but it is video testimony that was generated from the voice and looks of the victim. What's comical about this is that the statement from the dead man said that we should forgive, while the prosecution is going after the drunk driver for the maximum sentence. Although the judge did accept the AI video testimony and said that it was a very moving and wonderful speech that the AI avatar gave, the judge still did issue the maximum sentence. So it wasn't as though the testimony from the AI generated dead man really did do nothing. And now I just have to ask, how do I get off this train? Clearly we're on the crazy train. There's no other explanation for this. We are on the crazy train. Clearly, there's no other explanation. Can you think of any other reason why this is this insane? How do I get off it? But I guess this is a precedent that now actually exists. Oh, this, I just can't even. This is now the world we live in. But it is what it is. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I do encourage you to check my other works at twitch.tv/EagleFalcon and youtube.com/EagleFalcon. Take care, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye. This is the worst answer I got from chat as far as how do I get off this crazy train. Someone said you don't. You perish, and then AI replaces you. I hate this. You know what I hate most about this? That is literally the plot of the most recent main story in Final Fantasy 14, where they literally go ahead and use a giant simulated world to simulate the dead and let them live forever because they can't accept death. I hate this. I hated that story, and I hate this concept. Man, this sucks. Whew.